Is she alive?
She's alive. She's David's newest pet. Ah!
Where?
In the town. She's in the town.
You mark it on the map. It better be the same exact spot your buddy points to.
Neil pulled me aside one day, and he said, I have some ideas. And as you're well aware, Neil is a little twisted. He came up with this character, and, you know, I just jumped at it. It was such a departure from everything I've done here for Naughty Dog, to say the least.
Name's David. This here's my friend James. We're from a larger group. Women, children. They're all very, very hungry.
To be able to put on a voice that, you know, hopefully a lot of people won't know, won't notice that it's even me. Because we didn't want him to be Drake. Drake eating people, that's a whole nother game.
How did you put it? Tiny pieces. See you tomorrow, Ellie.
You know, certain voices that I can do wouldn't fit the David's artwork, but he showed me the art, and I said, maybe it's something like this, where everything's, you know, it's very quiet, and just, you know, he's not really sure, and the voice can break a little. And he just looked, he goes, yeah, that's it. So I'd love to tell you, we hashed it over and we talked. No, it just, I looked at the picture and I tried something, he said, yeah.
A few weeks back, I sent a group of men out a nearby town to look for food. Only a few came back. And turns out that the others had been slaughtered by a crazy man. And get this, he was with a little girl. You see, everything happens for a reason.
Ashley, she brought humor to it.
She just has some really great comedic timing. The way she reacts to the things around the world with a little bit of sarcasm, that teen kind of like trying to get a rise out of you.
Now watch your step as you're going out, because it's going to be a little...
It just brought a certain levity to the story that the story needed. You didn't even realize it needed it until she started doing some of that stuff.
Oh, I'm sure your friend will be missing this tonight.
Mm-hmm.
It's light on the reading, but it's got some interesting photos.
Now, Ellie, that ain't for kids.
Whoa! How the hell would he even walk around with that thing?
Get rid of that.
Well, hold your horses. I want to see what all the fuss is about. Oh, why are these all stuck together? I'm just fucking with you. Bye-bye, dude. Throughout the course of shooting over these past couple of years, Ellie and I have kind of morphed into each other, which I know sounds so cheesy. Neil always asks, he's like, well, what would you do in this situation?
I think the most important thing that Ashley brought is a sense of capability to Ellie's character that wasn't there in the beginning.
The very first thing we shot involved her being pulled out of a car and attacked, and Joel was supposed to go save her.
It was written that Ellie sort of was just kind of watching on the side, just waiting till he was done, and I was a little frustrated because I was like, well, if this were real life, I would do something.
We did a couple takes, and at some point she walked up to me and she said, I feel like I'd hit him.
So we added in a part, like, you know, right there off the bat, she's not just this damsel in distress. Right there, she wanted to fight back from her very first day of shooting.
We didn't have it right initially. She needs to be more capable than initially we thought she would be, and actually that made us go back and rethink combat and rethink a lot of the areas in the game, and now she was going to take a much more active part.
Anything that requires, you know, a lot of body movement, we do with the actors on the mocap stage. And we try as much as possible to use our actual principal actors, use their body motion as well as their voice. We capture it all at once there on the stage.
Having the actors perform as well as being recorded at the same time was imperative to get an accurate performance. Because every time you split up the performance in any way, you lose some of that magic where they did a gesture or they delivered the line a certain way. And those things have to be in sync, or there's just something subconscious that's like off-putting about the performance when you don't do it that way.
You are treading on some mighty thin ice here.
I'm sorry about your daughter, Joel, but I have lost people too.
You have no idea what loss is.
Everyone I have cared for has either died or left me. Everyone fucking except for you. So don't tell me that I would be safer with someone else, because the truth is I would just be more scared.
It gives you the most authentic, most realistic performance, because you're actually there, not just making your own choices, but making your own choices based on the other people that are involved in that scene. So you get this truly natural approach to things, and it shows up.
It's like theater in the round. You can do anything from any angle, and the smallest, most subtle thing we'll be able to pick up.
There's no place to hide. So you have to be as prepared as possible, because you have no idea which moments they're going to use.
There are these little improv moments and, you know, little nuances that you get that probably isn't scripted, that just comes out of play, you know, while they're performing. That mistake that is just blossomed into a really good idea.
Did we improv on The Last of Us? Yes. Yes, we did.
Doing this was a whole lot like being 5 playing in the backyard with a stick, you know, and this is my machine gun, and, you know, and a pine cone is my hand grenade. It's all your imagination. I'm doing the exact same shit that I did 45 years ago. I just get paid for it now. We square.
We're square.
And get the fuck out of my town.
I don't do a lot of voiceover work, so for me, it was nice to be able to work off of your other actors. I can't imagine it working in any other way.
I'd never done mocap before. I didn't know what to expect. The suits were crazy.
Yeah, the suit gave me wedgies. Like, deep wedgies that I had to pick out with my middle finger. Too much information.
Just how damn sexy I look in a motion capture suit. I look like 10-pound of sausage in a 5-pound casing in that thing, man.
Once you get past the fact that like everybody else and you look like weird clown people with these little dots and stuff, once you like give over to that, it really was pretty easy to make it just feel like you're in the moment and in the scene.
So everyone that was on this is a slam dunk. This isn't just another gig to them. And that creates a really cool energy for people to really start experimenting and playing jazz.
Floor is yours.
And action.
Get the fuck off! Hey!
Oh, let her go.
Don't worry, this is fixable. But I can't come with you.
Well, then I'm staying.
Ellie, I want Joel to watch over.
Oh, no.
Bullshit, I am not
Ellie.
going with
Gone
him.
too.
I could just take her to the North Tunnel and wait for me there.
Jesus Christ.
Just cargo, Joel.
How do you know them?
You know, we craft the scene out until it has a good feel, and then we pass it off to animation to clean it up.
Real life motions don't necessarily always translate into gameplay.
There's something that's usually missing, so we have to, you know, maybe enhance the gesture or enhance the shoulder movements or a breath that you want to be able to feel, but you don't really see it, so you can't really feel it unless you see it.
Is everything all right?
Yeah, everything's fine.
I could have him lean in here a little bit more, like this, take his hand down. When they're on stage, they don't necessarily have windows, you know, so that weight of like really pushing and leaning in, that's something that we would have to accentuate. You know, give him a little bit more weight on that turn, or put his head down a little bit more.
There's a lot of dialogue that gets said between the two characters. We have to bring that alive through animation, and we have what we're using as gestures.
Why would they mow down all these people?
Can't let everyone in.
If you turned off the sound, you'd know that they were talking to each other. And that really helps accentuate the relationship that the two have together. We have certain animations that play in the beginning of the game on Ellie. She's traveling with Joel, who she doesn't really know. There's a lot of gestures to make her look nervous, just her overall stance. Later on in the game, they develop a relationship through the animation, not just the dialogue. You can see that she's more comfortable around him. If that reads well with the player, then, you know, we're doing our job. You want her to look scared when she gets a gun. You want her to look scared of the gun.
If she's gonna aim, she wouldn't be like super trained aim. She would be more like some scared. But at the same time, it needs to look cool and feel cool to the player that plays.
It's really just these little tiny details that we're doing, and it's coming across. It's working out well.
We don't do facial capture. We don't track eye movements on stage. It's just the motion capture data. Everything that you see on the faces is hand-keyed.
As you can see, this is all of her mocap data. And so when I'm doing something like this, I go back and forth to the performance that she was giving, and I watch just this section over and over and over again. So this is our default face, where I can make everything super extreme and make her all squinty and angry, turn her frown down. I can open her mouth, stick her tongue out.
It's listen, watch. Okay, where's her mouth at this point? Like, is it open? Is she making like a grimace?
About Tess, I don't even know.
Here's how this thing's gonna play out. You don't bring up Tess. Ever. Matter of fact, we just keep our histories to ourselves.
We shoot all of it to just get the body motion, and then we'll do a second pass with the cameras.
The scene's playing back on an overhead projector, but it's also playing back on a monitor that's attached to my rig.
Sean and I would go to the stage and motion capture the camera, filming the scene, and so he would get a whole wide shot, a whole close-up for the whole scene.
You know, you can change your lenses, you can use your standard 35, 85, 50s, whatever, all that sort of live action camera cinematography, you can apply it on stage.
We make sure to go back in and add flaws.
We keep the confinements of the room so the camera can't go past a certain wall, because then we have this cheated perspective. If the cameraman bumps into the wall, we keep it. You know, missing focus hits when you're pulling focus, going too close to a character and reframing, those little moments in there. It kind of keeps it very cinema verite.
If everything was too perfect, you wouldn't be able to put your finger on it, but you'd be able to feel it. It would just feel off.
It's very much about grounding it, despite having, you know, the option to do whatever we want.
Being able to place the cameras anywhere we want after the motion capture gives us both advantages and disadvantages. The biggest advantage is it means that we just have to nail the best performances we can get, and the luxury is that we can always swap it.
The 3D world gives you limitless opportunities with cameras and movements, exposures, all that stuff. Most of these cameras are sort of set up like real world cameras. So we have lens, we have f-stop that will create the depth of field. We have aperture to, you know, set our film back and all that stuff. A master, and then I have my close-ups, my over-the-shoulders, sort of just like a live-action production. Let's go to camera 30 at the 23.458. Then I get that kind of weird, you know, bend across his back. The closer I bring the camera, the more bend I get, which is, you know, doesn't look right. It doesn't look it looks less cinematic than if I do that, which flattens the whole thing. And I'm trying to also catch Ellie. Like if you scrub a little more, you know, catch her in the back here. So I want a longer lens and that kind of stuff.
Since I've only had experience working with live action before I got into video games, it was a kind of a cool adjustment to be able to have this extra flexibility in post, to swap a line of dialogue for something different, even though that's not what the actor said at that time, and to be able to still have a close-up on them while they said it. You get to make it probably more perfect than you could ever make it in live action.
How far are we gonna take
As far as it needs to go. Where was this lab of theirs?
Because our actors are both the voice and their body, they get to play, they get to try things, they get to work with our director to kind of come up with new ideas, or even our director will have a new idea on the spot that wasn't there in the script, but realizing when he sees it, oh, well, this would actually be better, this might feel better. And those changes all just happen organically there on the set.
He could even lead straight into his thing. It's like, no shit, yeah, Tyler wanted to do that, so we rented 2 Harleys and drove cross country.
Keep it pretty succinct, like we got the bikes, rode them cross country. Cool.
It's shocking to me that this is Neil's first time directing.
There was a specific tone and a specific approach that Neil and Bruce wanted to take with this. It just came down to there's nobody who knows the story better than you, and then there's nobody that knows these characters better than you. Why don't you just do this?
He and I actually had a conversation about it. He says, I think I'm going to try this myself, and I'm not sure. Neil was fantastic.
The floor is yours. Okay, so remember, you've been running away from this turret-mounted truck. If you come to this dead end, you're going to look up and see a potential way out. And action.
Check it out.
I mean, his writing is honest, and it's dangerous, and it's natural.
And I love his economy of words. He doesn't hit everything on the nose, so it leaves it open for you to interpret and bring some nuances and things like that.
The entire process is collaborative, but really it's led by Neil's willingness to change and flow and decide something doesn't work, fix it right there in the moment. And it is something that's very foreign to the way that TV and film is done now, where everything has been micromanaged by the time you get it to the table read, and no one wants you to change anything, and everything's very precious and has been rewritten with notes from 20 people in suits, and you can't do that just anywhere in entertainment these days.
Yeah, I want to make sure. I think I swung too far over to this way, and now it's a little bit of making jokes about it, and I need to bring it back to center a little bit. There's one scene in the game where we see Joel not as a ruthless survivor, but as a father. I knew from the very beginning that he was going to lose his daughter, and I just told Neil, I was like, when that day comes for us to shoot that, I need a heads up. About a week before, he said, it's time, we're gonna do that scene. I was like, okay, because I knew that I was gonna have to go to this place that you don't really wanna go to as an actor. You wanna find some aspect of reality that you can empathetically draw from,
Troy and I were both kind of just like walking around for a while and just kind of getting into the zone, and my grandpa died when I was 8. He was like my dad, and so that's always what I use to get into that place.
I started recalling all those memories and starting pulling up all those feelings, and they're just right underneath the surface. When I walked back in, everyone realized that something was different. They kind of like calmed down,
You could feel the energy just like drop a little bit more.
It was brutal.
I lose my shit. I mean, just completely break down.
Don't do this, please, God, no. Oh, God, no!
The soundstage was deathly still.
That was the first take, and I felt really good about it. And it's like Neil said, okay, let's do it again. And so you do it again, and automatically you feel like you're manufacturing because you're trying to go back to that place, and you're in that actor nightmare of trying to get back to that reality. And we go through it again in 5th and 6th and 7th take, and I'm just exhausted. I'm crying between takes, and I'm looking at Neil going, this is really, really hard. And finally, after like the 8th or 9th take, he said, all right, I think we got it. I was like, oh, thank God. And I went outside, and I was just jacked up for the rest of the day. Just a wreck emotionally. But we got it. Then 2 weeks later, he calls me. And he says, so we need to reshoot a scene. I'm like, cool, what scene are we doing? And he just looks at me. I said, dude, don't do this to me.
And you can either at that moment throw your hands up in the air and say, fuck this, and walk away. Or you can say, okay, this is an opportunity to get it more right.
I'm like, okay, all right. You don't think you got it? I'm gonna show you that you got it. We've got it in the can. And so we go through it again, and it just feels fake, feels artificial. And Neil goes, go through it again. We start doing it again. And I'm getting madder and madder with each take. And finally, about the 4th take, Neil comes over to me, and I love him so much. He goes, so I'm picking up on some resistance. I was like, you're damn right you're picking up on some resistance. We've got this in the can already, and we're just wasting our time, and we're wasting all this effort and energy. And then he started talking me through the scene. And he was like, what I need you to do is I need you to just strip yourself of all these ideas, and I need you to hit this beat, and this beat, and this beat, and this beat, which just makes it sound so mechanical, and it's such an emotional scene. So we start going through it, and literally I am mindlessly doing these things at this point.
Okay? I know it hurts, baby. I know. So I'm gonna lift you up. I'm gonna get you over here. Come on, baby. Come on, work with me, please. God, baby. Sarah. Sarah! Don't do this to me, baby. Don't do this to me, baby. Come on.
And he stops, he goes, now we got it. And I realized that the reason why I wanted that first take to work was because I wanted everyone to look at me and go, wow, what an actor. And that's not what the scene needed.
Those moments where you just have to sort of calm your ego down and just go back and do your work.
That scene actually works, not because of me, but in spite of me. And that really is the marker and definition of working with a truly good director.
There are many like it, but this one is yours. Why don't you have a seat?
Thanks, guys.
It's the director's chair.
Working on the project, we knew we wanted to have a pretty minimalist soundtrack. And we had a folder where we just throw music in there. Looked at the folder one day and we saw, we have a lot of stuff here from Gustavo Santaolalla. We're looking for a composer. What if we reached out to him?
Oh, no. Sarah. Move your hands, baby. I know, baby, I know. Listen, baby, I know this one. You're gonna be okay, baby. Stay with me. I want to pick you up. I know, baby. I know it hurts. Come on, baby, please. I know, baby. I know. Sarah. Baby.
My life has been and still is kind of like a road movie. I grew up in Argentina. I came to the United States in 1978 because we had a horrible political situation in Argentina. We had a military dictatorship where 30,000 people disappeared at the hands of the government and many other more were tortured, and I was blacklisted. It was just impossible for me to keep on living there. I've been jailed many times since I was probably 15 years old just because I had long hair and I play an electric guitar. So I had to embark on this trip. I can relate to that kind of need of movement and going to the next place and the next place and the next step. I'm always attracted to the possibility of getting involved with a project from the very beginning. I like to work from the script and talking to the director.
It's never been, oh, give me a piece like this, or give me a music that's this. It's just been very high level. Here's what the story's about. Here are the themes. Go write some stuff.
Since I don't know how to really read or write music, the way I produce music is actually recording it. So I like to come early in the projects, and I did in The Last of Us. One thing that was fantastic from the very, very beginning was the freedom I had to try and to do whatever I felt could work, you know?
As the story was still being written, you could listen to this piece of music and just get a sense of where this needs to go tonally, because the music was still inspiring the story. So that was the great thing of having the music written so far in advance.
And at the beginning, I mean, I was going really out with some things, and sometimes some of those things were the ones that they liked the most, you know? So I really felt very motivated to work, and I enjoyed immensely working.
It was this very organic back and forth experience where one element was inspiring the other and vice versa.
I needed to go into some more dark places, more textural and not necessarily melodic. I'm always trying to sort of push myself into playing instruments that I don't know how to play. There's an element of danger and innocence. Lennon once said, you know, give me a tuba and I will be able to do I'm an artist. I should be able to do something. I like to put myself in that situation. So these are just PVC pipes, the one used, you know, in construction. or instruments that I know, kind of twist them. From the concept of the prepared piano, you know, I mean, I've worked with prepared guitar to stick things into the guitar and things like that. And also in The Last of Us in particular, I work with a detuned guitar. So I really tune the guitar extremely low. And the result is, you know, strings that are very loose and will produce not only sound, but produce noise. Because I believe, you know, every environment has its own sound. We have in our, you know, small studio, we have actually the possibility to record almost anywhere, including the bathroom, and we have done some fabulous recording, especially in the kitchen. When you score to picture, which is something that I don't do, then you know what you're gonna expect. But when you provide people with music, like I've done in all the films that I've done, and then you see it, how the director decided to use that, you know, in what particular way he uses it or where they edit it. It's always fascinating to me. I watch a scene and I'm going, you know, it's fantastic how they use this piece. I would have never, of all the music that I've done, probably I would have never used this piece there, but it works, you know, great. So I like that feeling of a collaboration. I think, you know, the guys also that work in programming and adapting that music to the game, they should share a lot of the credit for the end result.
In the beginning, there was silence. Yes. Then they hired sound designers. Then they regretted that decision.
Hold it steady. Ha! Got you!
In a much quieter environment like that, we really had to fill out the soundscape with much more natural sounds, much more detailed, delicate sounds. The tension comes from the lack of sound, in a way.
Your brain is thrown off because where I expect to hear buses and crowds, all of a sudden I hear wind and leaves rustling. Again, it's creepy and beautiful at the same time because it's almost like I'm going on a hike, but I'm in a downtown area.
To Neil, I mean, we were going through the iterations, so he just did not want, like, yells and screeches and what he called, like, you know, kind of witchy qualities,
Right.
the cackling witch. He didn't want anything like that. It was a little bit of a head scratcher to figure out, okay, how do we make it sound human but not human? Yeah. We really did not want to use any animals. We wanted these all to be human. Derek and I basically decided to hire a couple of voice actors who did some interesting work vocally to come see if they could come up with something. And we worked with this girl, Misty Lee.
She started giving us these really great screeches.
And that's no process.
Yeah, that's just her voice. And it started going into this little click. We also used a little bit of Phil's voice. We'd combine that also with an occasional, Derek. That's just me, you know, moving my tongue. And what that kind of did was it sort of grounded it all, like maybe in the mouth area, the wetness, all that kind of stuff. And it adds a nice texture, actually. This is a composite of all the bits I just told you about.
Sounds like a Snapple bottle.
Oh, the lid?
Like the lid, yeah.
That's a good idea. Fuck, where were you guys like months ago? Why did we think of that? Why did we think of that? Stupid. Viewers at home, You're probably wondering what this is. Let me tell you. About 10 years ago, I saw this Synthie suitcase synth. I wanted to get one. This finally arrived in January, just in time to start using. I thought, well, what can I do with this? In Lakeside, there's a whiteout that happens, and this thing has a noise generator, which gives really convincing wind sound. The military still has technology. There's sirens and alarms, so I wanted to try some new concepts.
What?
Nothing. It's just I've never seen anything like this. That's all.
You mean the woods?
Yeah. Never walked through the woods. It's kind of cool.
We consciously take in consideration lighting in the beginning.
Most of the game, we don't really have any real man-made light sources, so everything is naturally lit.
In the past, you know, we could use a lot of artificial light, but in a world that has no electricity.
We have to hide most of the time, and that requires getting very close to certain assets.
Just stay back.
Otherwise, you can't.
Detail's expensive, and if you build up too much of it, you end up running into technical problems, right? Your engine slows down.
When the frame rate goes down, everyone can bring up the profiling tools and see which parts of the frame actually cause the drop of the frame rate.
This is the profiling tool. These are all the SPUs. Here's the GPU, and then here's the PPU. You can see, like, here's the main process, and here's all the sub-processes, and you can see, tells you, like, how many milliseconds and cycles it's taking. The programmers are whiz at modifying this stuff and realizing, oh my God, why is this thing so big? We're taking 10 milliseconds on this thing. And then that's when they come over and find somebody and hit them over the head with a club and be like, why are you doing this? I love, we put the 30 frames per second goal because that's what we shoot for. Someone nicely put the 60 frames per second goal. It's like, yeah, we're not gonna hit that.
Lighters usually can come up with different lighting setup that still looks great, but is less costly in terms of performance.
Did you talk to the character artist about her hand? So her face is getting a lot of spec, but then her arm is just like bone dry.
You think something we can tweak in shader? We'll have to send back to character team Michael to take a look.
I can play with the lights and see if that's creates more like spec.
Yeah.
I've never ever focused so much on lighting and how much sensitivity there is to that here.
One of the first lighting scenarios I had to do was like 7 a.m. like overcast. And I'd like wake up early and like take photos with my phone. What color are the shadows? What color is the light?
It is a master's course unto itself of how to deal with ambient lighting because I've never had to use it so much.
Man, this is kind of sad.
What is?
All this music that's just sitting here. No one's around to listen to it. I don't know. It doesn't seem right.
All the characters cast soft shadows onto the environment. Even when there is no direct sunlight or no direct light sources, we still have nice fuzzy shadows.
When you're walking down the hallway and you see your soft shadow goes along with you projecting on the wall on the environment, that make everything look real.
Follow me through here.
Okay.
The flashlight brought a whole new spin on it. So some of the environments end up being really, really dark, and you need the flashlight to get around.
Give me your hand.
We want to have the environment be really dark, but also at the same time have colorful surfaces that are sort of hidden. So when a flashlight hits one of those, it bounces off onto the ceiling.
If you shine a light on a red wall, it will bounce the red lighting on the whole environment.
And it's very difficult to do, very expensive, but we did it. Everything should have a bounce lighting. Otherwise, the world is gonna feel dry and unrealistic.
I guess this is where the assholes sleep. I mean, slept.
This engine is really driven in a way towards a very high level of cinematic control over each frame. And hopefully, if we achieve our goal, you'll see it is beautiful. There are these truly beautiful moments amid all this chaos and destruction.
Yeah, once we're done with this whole thing, I can teach you how to play guitar. What do you say, huh? Ellie, come on.
I got you.
Damn it, Bill.
What just happened?
One of Bill's stupid traps. There, that fridge, it looks like that's a counterweight.
Okay.
The story really dictates sort of the arc of the overall pacing.
Storytelling would always want to be subtle. They would always want to keep the world grounded in reality. But gameplay has requirements where the player needs to see this thing. The player needs to immediately know that the enemy is attacking, that this room is dangerous, that this room is a puzzle that you have to solve.
What are the things that we can do on the joystick to make you feel the same way that these characters are going to feel when we get to this next pinch point in the story? There's a turn in a scene that we need these characters to take, and we need you to feel it or understand that, and that means you have to play it.
Sail! Oh, thank God. Gotta keep running. Ah! Doorway, over there.
Run!
We really want to make sure that there's that contrast between the negative space and then the high tension spikes.
A lot of times we won't play music, or we'll play very minimal music just to let you know kind of the state, whether you're still in stealth or combat has broken out. Hearing someone's footsteps or hearing a person breathing on the other side of the door has so much tension to it.
You hear that?
Shh, quiet. You feel the tension of the world, make you question whether you want to engage with these guys or kind of try to stealth around them.
That's another reason why we don't have traditional cover in the game. You smoothly move around everything, contextualizing with the environment, but you're never locked down. We want the player to, with that crafting system, with the scavenging system, with all of the abilities available to them, to constantly be moving around and changing as the moment arises.
Gameplay is all about, I have a limited set of tools, and how am I going to use those tools and those limitations to overcome this obstacle in front of me. And that obstacle might be infected, might be another class of humans that wants to kill me for a bottle of alcohol in my shoes.
It was important for us that we don't underplay the violence, because then the threat doesn't seem as real.
We see video games as this incredible medium to tell stories. We want to treat it as equals to books or comics or TV or movies. This is subject matter that would not be considered out of the ordinary to tell in one of those other forms of entertainment.
Fucking hunters. See, this could have been us.
We wanted you to buy just the desperation of these people and why they're behaving this way, because it's so brutal. And at the same time, we didn't want to make it so over the top, stylizing it, so then it doesn't become as real. It was important for us actually to hit that middle ground where it's kind of disturbing.
That glint that's happening on that curvature, it'd be good if there was a way that we can guarantee that from this angle, we're seeing it. It seems
But
really
it's
flat.
overall too bright and opaque.
Yeah, looks like paint.
Yeah, see, the blood on the ground works really well. It's something about the other shader is messed up in this environment. We got to fix that to unify the look.
Shouldn't make you giggle or laugh or any of that. You should be kind of appalled by what you have to do, but you understand why you're doing it.
You want to feel each hit. You want to feel each concussive strike. Lives are at stake.
You want a death animation to have impactful performance, not just have a guy keel over in a ragdoll.
In real life, a guy hitting a guy takes a half a second, but in the game world, you want that to be as instantaneous as possible.
I lived my whole life in this very ugly test level. I basically just fight dudes in here all the time. Almost every move is divided between like an intro and a swing. And one of the many things I have to end up doing is like counting frames and being like, okay, on frame 18, I want you to get out of here. I want you to be able to start moving. Every hit reaction that an NPC plays, they are not necessarily in the correct pose. When you strike them the next time, we just pop them with a 0 frame animation change, which is usually kind of a no-no, you know what I mean? Normally you want characters to blend smoothly and realistically into animations. But what we found is that you can cover that pop up with a heavy impact. They can go from almost any pose into the pose that the impact starts from, and your eye just covers up the transition for you. So if you throw a brick at a guy, it puts him in this like kind of staggering stun state. And that changes the moves that you do when you come up and punch him. So now I'm gonna come up and punch him, and now when you're punching him, because you've hit him down, you get this like auto aim moment where you get like a free headshot. I try to make it so that, you know, if you kind of know what you're doing, that you can set yourself up for 1 + 2 = 3.
Right here!
Memory on a console is a very precious resource. All of Joel's animations with every weapon, all the NPC animations, the stealth kills, you know, all of that stuff happening need to fit within a 4 meg to 5 meg memory footprint.
This is a list of everything that's loaded in game and how much memory it's taking, because memory is our most precious resource right now. So we have a level, we call it the bookstore, it's in Hunter City, and this is a zone, for example. So when I set an AI to this zone, he will never leave its boundaries. I want guys to guard this exit where you have to go through, so I'll zone a couple guys around there to make sure that they, you know, they can fight you and use all this cover, but they want to stay around this door. This is another key component of the AI, is what we call the Nav Mesh. This defines the overall play space of where an AI knows he can or cannot go. Hey, look, that's where a cover used to be, and there's a hole cut out for it. I gotta fix that. Here's some other wonderful things. See these little red polygons? Yeah, that means they're not linking right for some reason, so that means they can't really walk through here properly. It's a bug, and I need to fix it. Welcome to my life.
Hey!
If you look at a lot of games, NPCs are usually only alive for, you know, a few seconds before the player ends up shooting them and then they're dead. We want our guys to be much more dangerous and much more threatening, which means they have to be alive for longer. They need to exist in the world for longer, which means you as the player can witness them acting out their behaviors for longer.
So we've been working really hard on our AI systems. Back of the box, biggest bullet is going to be like AI.
So we tried a number of different prototypes with the buddies, including having Ellie be super independent of you. She would try to flank the enemies, get behind them, or get between you and them.
And a lot of times those decisions should surprise you, just like a real person, a real character would surprise you.
And we discovered after many different prototypes, the best thing for her to do generally is to stay very near you.
You need the exploration, you need the scavenging, you need something to say like, okay, if we just crank it to 11 the whole time, then it's pinned up there and there's no time to breathe, no time to assess or analyze, and no time to really contrast. There's no way of shifting the pacing.
Puzzles are really weird, especially like Naughty Dog puzzles. I think they're very simple and satisfying. Most of this puzzle is strict exploration. You can see the ladder here, you can see the pallet there, you can see a clear route up to the ladder. So you're like, okay, maybe you have to get Ellie to the pallet, push the pallet over to this side, and like Ellie will climb up and lower the ladder. So that whole part is like, that's not a puzzle, that's not regarded as a puzzle, but when you feel like you've got to the solution and you're like, okay, I'm going to climb this ladder, and you climb it, and it breaks off, hopefully then the player will feel a little bit stumped and they'll be like, I'm not really sure what I am meant to do now. And so this is where the puzzle starts. Hopefully at this point, like all of the elements that the player needs to solve the puzzle are very familiar to them because they've been through the previous exploration beats. They're improvising with elements that are at their disposal. That's a really sort of like strong theme throughout like The Last of Us. So, like you're a survivor, you'll take whatever tools you're given and you'll use them in like creative ways to survive.
We set out to create something kind of new to Naughty Dog, this crafting system. Our lead designer, Jacob Minkoff, he got this book of like the survivalist handbook and homemade munitions and all sorts of funny stuff. Just start reading about, okay, if I was just wandering around in a collapsed society, this world, what stuff that seems like I could find? Alcohol and sugar, you know, if you want to make a smoke bomb.
It's difficult to balance the right amount of resources against what you think the player's going to need and making sure that the player feels like they're getting just enough to survive, but not too much that they feel like they're a powerhouse.
We wanted you to be forced to make some choices in the world that showed how depleted the resources were.
So if there's a particular point in the story where the characters are having a particularly difficult time surviving, then we want you as the player to be finding fewer items, farther apart, harder to survive. We will item starve you at the same time that those characters are feeling starved and worn out. Then you expose something to them. Oh, here's a cache, and if I can just get into that cache. Oh, look, there's a wealth of things in here. God, I was so worried. My health was low. If I had run into a combat, because it's always that thing in your head, it's that Hitchcockian thing about the danger that you see is less meaningful than the danger that's in your head.
When we're designing the levels, you know, it's nice to have the stuff that we know people are going to encounter. You know, we kind of call this some of the critical path stuff. These are the things that 9 out of 10 players are going to find. They're right in the way. It's where you have to go. And then whenever designing a level, you want to have that little nook and cranny, right? You want to reward the player being like, oh, you went over here. And then you also want to have that other second nook and cranny.
The player is supposed to go place a ladder here and climb up through the rest of the hotel. But what they can also do is shimmy across this area, and I place a really cool like upgrade kind of off the beaten path to reward players for exploring. So if they come all the way over here, they're gonna get this really cool training manual.
It's a funny little bit of trivia. The HUD system, not the menus, not like when you hit start and stuff, but the actual HUD system where you see the reticles and stuff, was literally created for an E3 demo early in Uncharted 1, and that's been our HUD system, the foundation of our HUD system for the last 4 games. First time in Naughty Dog's history, we hired Alex. She's awesome, and she's got a really good understanding of UI and how it applies to games.
The thing that I hate about any game's UI is when it pulls you out of the game for too long. No one wants to spend time in menus. Nobody loves UI, if we're being honest. Like, weapon slotting has probably gone through more iterations than any other system. The stuff that we finally ended up implementing, you press select, you get into this menu, then you D-pad left and right through the slots, and then D-pad up and down will change the weapon, and then just, you don't have to press X or anything, you just select out of it. When you're still, like Joel is here, that's fine, but then as soon as you get into an actual situation, so I'm gonna go over here and cause some trouble. Okay, so here they come, oh god. All right, so now I'm out of ammo. Now I need to like get back in that menu. I have to like run away from them, get into the menu, get out of it. And it ends up feeling like super clunky. Like again, okay, I'm out of ammo again. Get out of here. I need to take out one of my other long guns. And now Bill's in trouble. Bill's in trouble over here. And I've got to like I'm in a menu now and it's like, oh shit, whoever designed this UI is so bad. Like, what were they thinking? Bill's gonna die. In theory, it worked, but then in practice, it felt a little clunky.
We wanted it to be the absolute minimum amount of button presses. You don't say to yourself, oh, I'm never gonna be able to do this in time, so I'm just going to give up. I'll die, I'll restart, let me try again. You want to always make the player feel that there is a way to survive. They can just do this fast enough.
And like what's gonna go in now, if you just left right D-pad through this stuff, you swap out your guns like between long gun and short gun. If you're now on this gun and you were to hold X to pick your gun. So it all happens within the same system that you're using to slot the weapons. The first iteration that I did on that was awful. It just took way too long to get in. It was just a mess. QA was so upset at me like all the time. I'm sure they hate me now because of that system.
I think the way the industry is kind of maturing and changing in general, you're seeing a lot more focus and importance on refinement and polish. So having internal QA really helps. The industry is kind of changing from QA being this like tighten up the graphics on level 3 bro kind of vibe to like really being a more technical, mental investigative job. On the publisher side, it's more reactive towards the code being delivered in a stable, controlled environment. Whereas on the developer side, especially at Naughty Dog, we are going beneath the art and the design. We're given enough weight where we can go up to somebody and be like, look, you have to fix this. Why? Come over, I'll show you. That kind of feedback, I would love to be able to say like, that was us, but it gets so diffused throughout the iteration process that you're just kind of like adding your, I guess like genes into the gene pool and then just seeing what happens, you know what I mean? Everyone's working all the time now. But like I tell people, like 7 weeks and then you can have tons of time off, enjoy the sun, you know? But for now, it's like, this is it for everybody.
Crunching is been is part of making games. I feel it's human nature, right? If I'm gonna have a guest at home that's gonna come for a couple of weeks, I'm probably gonna clean their room just the day before they arrive, right? And I think it's the same thing. It's just like everything comes together at the end.
I personally enjoy crunch. I think you get this like absolute laser focus because it has to come together.
There's a camaraderie that also comes
There's a camaraderie, totally, yeah.
The vibe is everywhere, you know what I mean? Everyone's kind of like giving it 150% at this point.
We're getting there, right? You start to get these glimmers, and I don't think anyone who doesn't make games realizes how late in the process you get those glimmers.
1 week before we shipped that press demo, we're all like, this kind of sucks. What's going on here? It's like, we need to dig down and find this. And in 1 week, the fun came together.
Like you're shooting at a guy and then somebody flanks you and you hit him and you avoid the other guy who's shooting you and then you flank and go behind cover and you're like, oh, that 5 seconds in that 15-hour game was really, really fun. How do we make that 5 seconds happen thousands more times?
My favorite video game is making video games. It is as challenging and as complex and as interesting.
If we had to like try all the things that didn't work, what's hard about crunch? It's like marching through that swamp of it not working.
I mean, nothing's ever really final because you can always make something better, always. So we're constantly changing and constantly reiterating and trying to make it better and better and better pretty much until we ship.
As an artist, you're never really happy with your work. You could be given like 100 years to work on something, you'll still find things to nitpick and things to fix.
Yeah, you can work on the game for 10 years and you'll still be crunching at the end. So it's like, okay.
All of a sudden, it's like getting ready one morning in the shower, and I was just like, oh yeah, I'm about to ship another title, and this is gonna be a really good title, and it gets you excited, and you're like, all right.
Do I think the game's gonna be good? Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. I think it was good a little while ago, and now we're gonna make it
extra
kind of
good.
amazing.
Yeah.
What it will take to get there in these next 5 weeks It's going to be a lot. I'm excited. I have faith.
Every time we're shipping a game, it's terrifying. You just hope for the best.
You don't know, right? I mean, people have different opinions. We have to go with our guts, and I trust the team just to pull it off.
This, hands down, is the hardest, most challenging thing I've ever done. We sweat a lot, and we worked a lot, and we all went home tired, you know? But I think that's you're gonna see that on the screen. I think that's gonna pay off.
Ellie? Ellie?
What?
The ladder. Come on.
Right.
After David, Ellie's visibly distant. You could have done a cutscene to show, hey, you're being very distant, and she's not responding, but to also do that in gameplay, to where it's something that you've done just countless times throughout the game with, you know, let me boost you up here, get the ladder, bring it down so we can do this systemic thing. And the character responds with that, and you have to actually go over to her and go, hey, come on, the ladder, we've done this, let's do this. It's a subtle choice.
Like Bruce and I talked in the beginning, is like we have these mechanics, how can we exploit them in a narrative sense? And that's one of those opportunities.
I just think it's incredible that happens in-game. It's not a cinematic, you know, it's something that adds weight to that controller when they're playing.
Wow, so good!
Let's go eat.
Let's go eat.